to the products you need to know about, to wild places and extreme adventure, bringing it all together in one place. Pull up a seat by the fire, my friend. This is Today's Wilderness.
And I'm your host, Kevin Gardner, on Today's Wilderness. My guest today is Glen Berry from Berry Game Calls. Glen, welcome to the Today's Wilderness Show.
Thank you.
I've communicated with you guys recently to get some replacement reeds, and I saw your website and saw that you guys have an awful lot of things to offer. I'd purchased my call from you, my bull call from you guys several years ago. Finally, after several years, I wore out the reed and needed to get a replacement, and I was amazed at how much you guys had to offer, and I thought this would be a great opportunity to do a show with someone who makes elk calls and deer calls and whatnot, being that we're heading back into the fall and the hunting seasons are starting up within the next month or so, and the bulls are going to start bugling out in the west in the middle of September-ish, somewhere around there. It might even be a little earlier, some of the areas that you're in. But I wanted to talk to you about your company, about Berry Game Calls, some of the history, some of the calls, and the different things that you have to offer. You've got quite a bit of things here. Maybe we'll start off with your website address and your phone number. Do you want to go ahead and throw that out?
Yeah, we have a website at berrygamecalls.com. Phone number is area code 509-299-5524.
And you also have an 800 number.
Yes, for orders it's 1-800-434-2855.
And that's good in the U.S. and Canada, I believe, right?
Yeah, I believe Canada called down on the 800 number.
Perfect. We do get a lot of people who listen from Canada, and we get an awful lot of people who listen from overseas and do patronize our guests. So good to know. www.berrygamecalls.com and the order number 800-434-2855. Would you like to start off with maybe giving us a little bit of history of Berry Game Calls, how things came about, and just sort of walk us through that?
Well, we started a little over 25 years ago. I was a little younger then and always loved to hunt elk, and at that time that was the very beginning of using mouth diaphragm calls to call elk with. Happened to be in Eastern Oregon and met some individuals there that sort of made their own, and they sort of looked like a turkey mouth diaphragm to me, and we got some from them and started playing with them and started building some for myself. One thing led to another, and and here it is going on 26 years later.
So did you start off primarily making mouth calls as far as the mouth call that's inside your mouth versus the external calls?
Yes, that's what I started with. It was a craze going on. It's hard to understand it, but 25 years ago, it's nobody hardly ever killed a bull elk with a bow and arrow. The seasons are set during the archery season, during the rut when the bulls are bugling, and these guys that I met, they were really good hunters, and I was pretty young. I was about 25 years old at that time, and started showing me a little bit, and I started building some calls, and friends wanted calls, some of the local archery shops wanted calls, so started thinking, well, I'll just build enough calls, pay for my out-of-state hunting. That's all it started out with, and built calls. One thing led to another, and my job at the time, I was a welder for pipe fitter and Boilermaker Union stuff, and had a pretty good job, but that company was sort of going a little bit south, and one thing led to another, and I just decided to take a chance, and I quit and went to forming our own little company here, my wife and I, and here it is 25 years later.
It's an excellent story. You've evolved this call line and assortment since then. I believe I bought the bull call that I had.
Thunder Bugle.
The Thunder Bugle. Yeah, I bought that one in, probably mid to late 90s.
Yeah, that was a great call, and still I cannot even improve on that call. It's sort of strange. My family seems to be pretty creative. My mother was an artist. To wake up in the morning and know exactly how something's going to be built. Something I go to bed not even thinking about. Wake up in the morning and have a pretty good idea of what I want to try to make. That Thunder Bugle was a great call. It was made with a little plastic reed. It snaps straight into the call, and if you just put your lips or bottom lip, top lip over top, blow into it, you get sound, and you can mold that right into a bull elk bugle.
What I like about that call, and I've used that call successfully more than any other call that I have. It's the one I really like the most. It's got a pretty good size tube with it that expands, pulls out. It's a sort of accordion style grunt tube there, and that thing, when I pull it out, I really like the
compact.
Yes, it compacts down very nice. The range and the tone that I get from it, with minimal effort, I can get a really good elk bugle that's not sounding like I'm the biggest bull in the forest.
Yeah, that's probably one of the things that people that start hunting elk figure out after a while, that it's not a bugling contest against the bull. It's a calling. You're trying to, if you overpower the bulls, a lot of bulls you intimidate. So that call right there, just to let you know, and yours too, that's our expandable mini Thunder Bugle, and you can actually learn to expand that to different lengths to get different type of sounds.
And that's been a great call. I would highly recommend that, endorse that for sure. That's been in my arsenal now for over a decade, and I really like that call. That's why I was contacting you again recently to order some new reeds. You also do some cow calls and calf call combination as well.
Yes, we have a variety. In fact, that Thunder Bugle has 4 different type of reeds you can put on that Thunder Bugle. We make that in a regular Thunder Bugle and a mini Thunder Bugle, which we've been talking about, mini Thunder Bugle. The regular Thunder Bugle is exactly the same. It just has a harder tube on it. It carries a little more hollow tone on it, and you could do them cow calls on the Thunder Bugle also by just running your tongue up on like a mouth reed. It works really easy. Calf calls, but like you're saying, the external type cow calls are very realistic and they work really good. We make 2 different type of external type cow calls. We make sleazy cow call, which once again I hit a home run years ago and made a call that a lot of big bulls have gotten in trouble on. Pitcher after pitcher, people calling me saying, "Gosh, I just love that call." All you do is bite, blow into it, and release it, and it's very simple like that. And then last year we brought out what we call a fatal attraction, and that's an open reed call. It comes with 2 reeds. There's a clear reed on it. We call that clear, sweet sound, and there's a green reed, a little bit more mellow sound. They're very easy to change, and I was explaining about using that call. You want to turn around and just leave the reed up on top. It's an open reed, so all you do is what we call a sliding note. You just put your tooth on it, your top tooth, just lay it on towards the end. You just put a little pressure point on it, blow into the call, and push the call into your mouth, and then it slides in, and it gets that vibration sound that a cow elk make. There's a variety of different sounds the cows and calves make, and you can make all those sounds. So it has a lot of variety to it.
I'm looking forward to that. I'm actually going to be field testing that thing here over the next few weeks, and I want to try it in a couple of different environments. So I'm really looking forward to the cow call for sure. Elk calls aren't the only thing that you guys do. You have deer and turkey calls as well, correct?
Right. Here being in the Northwest, we're just right outside Spokane, Washington, right over on the Idaho border here. Elk's the big thing here. We have whitetail, so we built a buck grunt bleat call, and they're pretty simple to run, just blow into the calls. About the turkey population's been growing and growing and growing here in the Northwest, especially in eastern Washington. So we started creating some turkey calls and stuff to meet that market, and that market's starting to take off more and more all the time.
Good. You have also on your website, I was kind of following right down the menu on the left side, a lot of DVDs that you offer as well. Are they primarily instructional type, or are they more of the Joe and I hunting video?
Back years ago, it's amazing, our age and what we've seen, why we've grown up from an early age. When video cameras came out, you looked at them, you're so used to developing film. And the first videotape you actually seen, you're thinking, how's this work? Back in the late 80s, there was no hunting videos out there at all. I was one of the guys from Missoula, had an elk hunting video they did, and they were more of a production company, and it was so bad. It was so phony looking, parts were done in parks and, and cut in with regular hunting and stuff. I thought, man, that'd be sort of a challenge to do that. So we took the camera out, we went over to eastern Montana, and we didn't know the difference on the cameras and bought a little camera, which isn't beta cam, not broadcast camera. We didn't know the difference at the time, but it was a little better in VHS, and we went out and videotaped. I called the bull and shot it, on video, and we made a video. It was called Bugling with Success. Outfitters used that for years to train their guides how to use calls and how to call elk in, and we sold a lot of those. It was just an instructional tool, and it went for years, and we made VHS, then we moved into the DVD stuff, so we've got several titles. Our newest title was Hot Bulls 4. We've had 4 different elk hunting DVDs. Of course, the old VHS stuff we had to retire. They got outdated, but we had Hot Bulls, VHS, watching how technology keeps changing and following the curve, as you know.
So Hot Bulls 4, that's the one that's on the front page of your website. There's also a link there, an area there you can click that will take you over to the menu of the different DVDs that you have.
Yeah, and you know, we try to make those DVDs very entertaining but educational. So it shows you how to use all the calls on it, explains a little bit. You know, when you're out in the field, there's like tips put in. So you're going to watch fair chase hunting. One thing that I don't do is hunting pins, you know, and that's what I think it's the poison to our sport, the hunting high fin stuff. You know, all the stuff's just real hunting. It's an experience. It's difficult to be successful out there, but that's what makes it very rewarding.
So Hot Bulls 4, that's available on the website. And again, I'm going to hit that website address. It's www.berrygamecalls.com. All one word, berrygamecalls.com. Also on the website, apparently for more of the guys starting out or the gals starting out, you have the Elk Hunters package deal. That looked like an interesting setup. You want to go ahead and talk about that a little bit?
We do a deal, and it makes it a little easier for a person to buy into a little package that's getting started or wants to try into our calls. Gets the Thunder Bugle. It gets your choice of any cow call. You get extra reeds for your Thunder Bugle, so you wound up being like 4 reeds with the Thunder Bugle because those reeds do wear out, as you know. And then you get the video. You get your choice of any video, but normally guys get the newest one, the Hot Bulls 4. You get a little holder to put your call in, so when you're out in the field, if you have real replacement reeds, you got to take care of them while they're getting ruined, of course. So you get a little something, you get some information to help you learn how to use the call and when you're going to be out in the field, and plus, you know, very easy calls to use. What I try to teach on my seminars that I do is once you sound like the real thing, you need to focus on good hunting habits because calls don't substitute good hunting habits.
How true. This is a good package. They're getting a Thunder Bugle, which, as I said, in my mind is a priceless item. I really like my Thunder Bugle, and I'm sure I'm going to like this cow call as well. But they get that. They get a video. What was the price on that? If I'm not mistaken, it was $49.95 or $45.99, somewhere around there?
$49.95, yeah.
$49.95. That's a deal. Again, on your website, or they can call your 800 number, 1-800-434-2855 to order. Or if they're outside of the U.S. and Canada, they can always reach you directly at area code 509-299-5524. And what I'd like to do is maybe just take a quick break and come back, if we could, and go over some tips and techniques. You mentioned the seminars that you do, and maybe we can offer some folks some good tips and techniques for the coming season, because as I said, we're only about a month away from the bugle season in the West, and as you know, the hunting season's starting up, so maybe some things that people hadn't even thought of, some of the seasoned people, we can come back and give some really good tips and techniques, and some of the things that'll work good. I am with Mr. Glen Berry of Berry Game Calls. This is Today's Wilderness. We'll be right back.
Bored with the same old outdoor material? Looking for a place that thinks of your passion for adventure and wild places first? The Water and Woods Network offers unique and exclusive material to you, the avid outdoorsman, from sites like waterandwoods.net, home of the popular Water and Woods online magazine. We're dedicated to the outdoors. Deerfever.com, proven deer hunting tips, techniques, and the gear to put that knowledge to work. Get the knowledge, grab the gear. If you have an appetite for the outdoors, then pull up a chair and browse on over to waterandwoodsnetwork.com. That's waterandwoodsnetwork.com.
Berry Game Calls have been providing quality game calls to hunters since 1983. Their unique calls, like the Thunder Bugle, with its thin external style, allows you to produce high-pitched tones easily with very little air pressure with 3 different styles of changeable reeds. The Sleazy Cow Call with its can't-miss tone will automatically make the right pitch. Can't wait until elk season? Start now and sound like the real thing. Berry Game Calls, the Northwest's best-kept secret.
This is Today's Wilderness.
And we're back on Today's Wilderness with my guest, Glen Berry of Berry Game Calls, www.berrygamecalls.com. And you can also reach them at their 800 number, 1-800-434-2855 to order products. And Glen and I have been talking about the history of Berry Game Calls. We've talked about some of the different calls that they have, their DVD lines, and a wonderful starter package that they have on their website as well, called the Elk Hunters Package Deal. All these things can be found on the website. Glen, you're not a one-man show here. You have your family pretty well engaged in what you do. Maybe before we get into some of these tips and techniques we're going to talk about, why don't you tell us a little bit about your family and the involvement and how that's all evolved?
Well, we're a small family business. My wife is a very big part of the business, and my son Chad, which if you email us, he'll be the one answering questions. Like that, he does most of the answer to the questions on emails that come in at chad@berrygamecalls.com. We're just a small company, but we never wanted to be big. We're just where we want to be, and we just enjoy the outdoors, and we're a family business. My shop sits right next to my home, so we don't have very far to go to work. I tell you, it's just been an American dream here.
It sounds like a blessing. I have 2 very small children, and I'm getting excited about them going into hunting. And I have a photo of my daughter using my Thunder Bugle, 4 years old, in her princess outfit, and it's adorable. I think it would be the greatest thing in the world to be able to create something for your children and your family, especially in these economic times, which everybody likes to be gloom and doom, and I don't think that's really where we are or where we should be. It'd be really ideal to have a situation like you have there, where you created something, as you said, you're right next to your home, and you got your family engaged, and that's fantastic. I saw you have photos on your website. Show some of the photos of your family and the successes, and you also have photos on there from successful hunters, as it appears. Is that something that you welcome, is people to send you photos when they've used your calls and your products?
Yes, I think people enjoy looking at their photos being put on, knowing that they're sharing them with other hunters around the world like that. My daughter Brett is well involved in archery and hunting, and she's going to college right now. She's going to Whitworth College here in Spokane. She's accomplished quite a bit, too, in our sport. We not only do we bow hunt, but we also participate a lot in archery. And as a young adult, she won the Worlds at Vegas, which is the biggest indoor tournament in the world. She won the Outdoor Nationals. Me and Chad, we shoot all the state tournaments and stuff. We're just a family that enjoys doing things together.
And you also do seminars, and I'm assuming that you are promoting not only your product, but techniques and tips. You want to go ahead and go into that, some of your favorite tips, techniques, something that would maybe even the seasoned elk hunter out there or deer hunter might learn. Why don't you go ahead and just give us a rundown what you like?
Well, I've been at this a long time, and I've shot a 41 bull elk with bow and arrow, hunting multi-states, and everyone's been a little bit different. If I reflect back to how I called them in and how I was able to get a shot at them, some of the techniques that I like to teach people is of course, good hunting habits. You want to be familiar with the area. You want to be prepared for success. If you try one little phrase I use little phrases when I do seminar. If you hunt like everyone else, you'll be successful like everyone else. So how you access the area is probably one of the most important things that I try to teach. Learning which direction to access the area for wind currents. Normally you get a northwest wind or a southwest wind at that time of year, and so you actually want to make sure you access the area with the wind in your favor. Be able to work the canyons. You need to cover ground on ridge tops. You know, it's not like hunting deer. Deer could be a few deer in different pockets all over the place, but a lot of times elk are herded up, and they're in one canyon. So if you don't find that canyon, you're not finding the elk. I got a good friend of mine, Jim Picola, says, if you're not standing in elk tracks, you're in the wrong place.
That sounds like good advice. I've noticed that in the Rocky Mountain West, hunting the Rocky Mountain West, that when you're out in the mountains, it can be so deadly quiet. Coming back to that, the elk calling and cow calling, I got kind of schooled at the Denver Sportsman's Expo by Larry Jones. I was sounding like the biggest cow in the woods when I was doing my cow call. And he gave me some tips, as well as Jim Zumbo had given me some tips, which was somewhat intimidating at the time, but I realized that I was really bugling and cow calling way too loud, and it's so quiet sometimes in the high mountains, especially after a heavy snowstorm. Do you find that most hunters bugle too loud or cow call too loud?
Well, it depends on, you want to get some volume out there locatable, but what I try to teach is, once you've heard a bull, the least amount of calls you can make and as close as you can get, and with the least amount of calls, your best chance of getting close to that bull and get to look at him. What I found is that when people first start elk hunting, their first thing, they're really excited about just having an animal respond to their call.
And that is exciting when you blow that call and you get that response from them, and I could see where that could be very challenging for someone new to keep themselves off the call. I like that piece of advice is, once they're responding to you, don't overdo it. I think that's extremely valuable information.
Once they have an animal answer their call, they talk back and forth with the animal, and that's rewarding to them. Then all of a sudden it comes to the second level. They like to see what they're calling at. They go into that second level where they actually see the animal they're calling at. That goes for a while, but that goes to the third level, is trying to figure out how you're ever going to shoot one of these critters. And I tell you, it's very difficult. Success ratio's pretty low on archery hunting during the rut. You're looking, in most states, less than 10%. So 10 people out of 100 are successful. I think that most people are successful just having a good time and being out in the woods and being able to get some exercise and enjoy time with their friends and family. Sooner or later, they want to put something in the freezer.
Yeah, success is subjective, and it certainly is something that you got to gauge for yourself. And just as you say, getting out is often a very good time, and enjoying yourself. That should be the meat and potatoes of it until the meat and potatoes come along. I found that when elk come in to a call specifically, they tend to like to make a big circle. They know, it seems as though they're pretty aware that wind direction or those thermals are going some direction, and they start to make a circle around you. At least the areas I've always hunted, they've been somewhat timid and intimidated by people who they've been tricked before, and they start to make that circle, and they know that they're going to catch your wind somewhere. I always like to use a two-hunter technique where one person is on the calls and the other person is just outside of view of that caller, because as that bull comes in, starts trying to find that call, he starts to make that loop, and so hopefully runs somewhere into that second hunter. If you're able to hunt with a second person, that's always worked quite well for me. That's where those cow calls sort of started to come in. At what point do you switch over from the bugling over to the cow call?
What I try to do is, if one call's working, stay with it. What you want to do is once you have the bull answer your call, I try to teach, I like to cut a third of that distance down very quickly. One of the mistakes that people make is they call at the animal, he answers their call, and they sit there and wait for it to come in, and it doesn't come in, it doesn't respond anymore, and they get up and they start moving closer. Well, anytime you give time, that animal could be moving from that spot you heard him at. You could run into them while you're moving around out there. I just try to teach people the best time to, if you're not satisfied, try to get as close as you can. And when the bull's screaming, you know right where he's at. That's the best time to get up and move right then, because you know exactly where he's at. Try to cut that distance down 1/3 at a time. Then I go 2/3. So if the bull starts bugling at another bull, no sense in making a call, period. You want to just get as close as you can with the least amount of calls. A lot of times we use the two methods like you were talking about, Kevin. It's just putting a guy out in front. The bulls seem to be real vocal when they get to that 100-yard mark or something. A lot of times they shut right up and they'll run that last 100 yards in, and they'll circle downwind of the caller. You know, you always put the shooter a little bit downwind of the caller, and a lot of times they'll hook right into him.
That's great advice. You say you'll stick with one call as much as possible, huh?
I start off with a few cow calls into a canyon. Most of the time, you're not going to hear anything. Then I'll hit a bugle. The bull responds to a bugle. I know he's, half mile down there. Right away, I know what direction the wind's going. I'm going to cut that distance down 1/3. Then you need to relocate that bull again to see where he's at. I'll hit a cow call, and if he responds to a cow call, he's trying to call that cow to him. If he bugles on a cow call, that's all I'll do. I'll move 100, 200 yards towards him. Cow call again, he'll bugle again. I get as close as I can, set up, and normally that bull will come out to try to pick that cow up when you get closer. And the other scenario is if when you move up, you cow call nothing, he doesn't do anything. You hit a bugle, he responds to the bugle. A lot of bulls are just like people. They're looking for a fight. Some people are looking for fights, so they'll respond to a bugle better than they will a cow call. Other bulls just want to respond to the cow call. So everyone's a little bit different.
That's great advice. I have used some other techniques as well. I don't know if you've ever experienced this one, but I've had bulls that have hung up, and they're out there, they're just looking for that last piece of convincing information that that's really a cow or a small bull in the distance, but it's pretty thick and they can't see it. I've had good luck with using my water bottle. Two different methods with it. One, either just opening the water bottle very quietly, a plastic water bottle, and just gently pouring a little bit of water onto the ground, which simulates a cow urinating. And I found that can sometimes close the deal. You can also use it if it has the squirt top to simulate a small bull urinating just by the technique that you use with the water bottle. I don't know if you've ever used that technique, but I've had it seal the deal for me a couple of times in bringing animals in close.
That's some good advice.
I've used it, and I'd like people to consider that whenever when you're out and that bull's hanging up on you, because he's just looking for that little piece of convincing information to seal the deal. But this has been really great. These are some great tips and techniques. I think this is going to really make it worth folks coming by and checking us out, and hopefully coming by and checking you guys out, because that's what this is about. This is about driving people to your site. And again, I want to hit that site as Berry Game Calls. It's www.berrygamecalls.com, and the phone number 1-800-434-2855. And that'll get you in contact with them to place an order. We also have their direct number for those of you who might be out of the area of an 800 number, or just want to contact them directly via a number other than the 800 number. That number is 509-299-5524. And I'm on the show with Glen Berry, founder and owner of Berry Game Calls. We've talked a lot about a lot of different things. I've had a great time. This has been a really good show, I think, and I want to thank you for your time, for joining us, and I hope that we can come back and maybe do a show again together in the future. And I'm really looking forward to trying out your cow call here over the next few weeks.
Well, it sounds like you've been out there chasing around one or two yourself there, Kevin, and that little trick you had with the water bottle, I'll have to try that. I've heard of that on hunting moose and pour water, because there's lots of water in the lakes and stuff when they're hunting moose, but never on elk. Somebody can learn something from other people every day, right?
Yeah, hopefully. I appreciate it. That makes me feel good. I usually don't talk too much about my experiences on the shows, because it's supposed to be all about you folks. So again, Glenn, thank you very much for joining me. It's been a great pleasure. We're with the founder of Berry Game Calls. Look them up on the internet. I think you'll enjoy their site, and you'll find a lot of things there that you'll want to have. www.berrygamecalls.com.
I was just going to let you know one thing. They also could look for our product at the local archery shops and sporting goods stores like Holt and Bob Ward's. Here in the Northwest, we're in most of the stores. Ask for our calls at the stores. There's a lot of chain stores that carry our product and stuff, but if they can't find it, like you say, they can always get hold of us. Thank you very much for having me.
You're absolutely welcome. Thank you for being on the show. I'm your host, Kevin Gardner, and this has been Today's Wilderness.